Yes, Pascal is back. Spicy P is back. And fortunately, the Raptors couldn't win um, yesterday game as they got blown out by the Brooklyn Nets. 116 to 103, and they had lost back to back games for the first time since they lost back to back games against the Bulls and the Mavericks in the third and fourth game of the season. But welcome to this segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. So the Raptors coming into this season after losing Kyle Lowry due to sign and trade, but free agency, and it was time for contract man Fred Van Fleet to step up, and OG Ananobi will have a huge role this season, as you can see, as he's averaging a career high 20.2 points a game. And you also got Fred Van Fleet, who's averaging about the same numbers he averaged last season as a shooting guard and was kind of off the bench as last year, and this year has been the same as he's averaging 19 points with a career high 5 boards and 7 dimes per game. And also rookie Scotty Barnes, his first season in the NBA, and he's averaging 18 points and 7 rebounds and shooting 52% from the floor. And as you know, this season, well, as like every season, the Toronto Raptors get disrespected from both ends of the floor. But right now they're number one in the Eastern Conference in points allowed, and that's a good stat to start the season with. And they still need that guy, and I think they need to get rid of that bum ass Goran Dragic. He was a bum when he first got traded, and he said he doesn't like being with the Raptors, and I think they need to get rid of that bum because they brought back Siakam and then they waived another bum, Sam Decker, which made uh, like they have 15 million in cap space, so they need to trade Goran Dragic to have more space, and they just need one guy that can make shots down the road, especially in the fourth and third quarter, because that was why what was missing, because when they lost to the Cleveland Cavaliers and had it going with the Cavs, but like I think in the fourth quarter and the end of the third it wasn't too good, but the Raptors as the Cavs stole the momentum out of Scotiabank Arena. But it was a great game to watch because the Raptors, before this 2 game homestand, they were on a road for 3 straight and they won. Because the Raptors have been disrespected. Like, they have been disrespected. Even they won the title, they still got disrespected, and we'll talk about that in the later show about NBA Finals, because injuries happen all the time. But they did have big wins. They had a big win in Boston. They won 115 to 83. They also had big wins at home against the Pacers. They won Indiana. They won at MSG. They won They beat the Wizards in Washington by 9. And their next game, in fact, is on November 11th. They will play, which is on um, Wednesday. They will Wednesday, yes, Thursday. My bad. They will play the Celtics again in Boston. That starts at 7:30, and there've been a lot of rumors in Boston with the Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum struggling, and also Marcus Smart coming out saying that they never pass the ball and that everyone's focusing on them and they should think of passing the ball. But we'll talk about the Boston Celtics in a different episode because we need to talk about the Celtics because Jason Tatum is struggling. Yes, he's had great numbers, but he hasn't had the Jason Tatum that we know. That's why I feel that he's overrated. So they are 6-5 on the season, fourth in the Atlantic Division. Um, and without Kyle Lowry, they have been uh, getting that extra points from OG Ananobi, who I don't have on my fantasy team, but I wish I got him because he's been balling. But I did draft Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes. And I think Scotty Barnes is going to be a good player for the Raptors, not just defensively, but offensively as well. And also Gary Trent Jr., who I'm not a big fan of him, but he's a great shooter and a great defender, and that's what the Raptors need. Because right now, defensively, they're not like the best, but they're all right. And on the offensive side, OG Ananobi did not have a great game against KD and the Nets, as he only had 15 points, but he was good on the rebounds. But his shot selection was not that great, so expect OG Ananobi to have a big game against the Boston Celtics because they will play against the Schroeders, the Tatums, and the Browns. And Brown is injured right now, so he might not suit up, but that could be a good game for the Toronto Raptors. And Fred Van Fleet was great. Like everyone thought he had a quiet game, but he did have a great game on the offensive end. He passed the ball, and the Raptors were were toe to toe with the Nets until the end of the fourth. They only lost by like 13 points. You know what I mean? And they played Kevin Durant, who had an efficient game, 31. Harden had 28, and the Nets were on fire too. But expect the Toronto Raptors to snap their 2 game losing streak and to have a big win again at the TD Garden in Boston because that's their next game. But right now, the Raptors stand in the eighth, and I know it's early, but I'm just updating you. They're 6-5, 2.5 games out of first. They are 2-5 at home, and they are 4-0 on the road, which is good because right now, they're actually second in the East in points allowed, and probably fifth in fourth or fifth in the NBA in points allowed, and their difference is 2.9%. But they're gonna be good because now the Cavs lost Colin Sexton with a meniscus tear, and you know that Kawhi Leonard had a similar injury, and also Joel Embiid is going to miss multiple games with COVID 19. And um, now also that he's going, Ben Simmons is not suiting up and he keeps getting fined. But for the schedule tonight, the Knicks will play the Sixers, Nets, Bulls, Timberwolves, Grizz, Pels, Dallas, Miami will play in Denver, and as you guys all know, Kyle Lowry is coming off a triple double, 18 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists. Also, the Warriors are 8-1 on the season, and that will be great to see because once Clay Thompson, who I have on my fantasy team, when he comes back, the Warriors are going to be nasty. But this is a segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. We want to welcome Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam, Spicy P, as he's back after missing uh, the first couple games with an injury, and we finally got him back. And he is on a minute restriction, but expect him to get back to his main role and for him to get going on with his conditioning and all that. We hope he can have a better game against the Celtics because he did have 2 quick fouls in the first 5 minutes of the game against the Nets yesterday afternoon. But this is a segment of the Grind Never Stop podcast. Make sure to check us out on YouTube, turn notifications on, subscribe, and hit this like button. And we're also on Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, and all your podcast platforms. But this is your host, DJ Joe, signing out. Bamba out.